in our movement. He's written some wonderful books. He preaches in prisons, and he preaches all through Eastern Europe and all over America. So we're really pleased to have him return to his old home of Old Vrindavan, and we want to welcome him with some Haribol. So we're asking Maharaj to please enlighten us with the glories of Radha Vrindaban Natha Seva. Hare Krishna.
Om Gyan Timidandasya Gnadina Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Mina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padai Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyati Desatane Srila Prabhupada Ki. What other, it's like a little firefly coming in to blink after all of the sun has been given all of the light that we need. So there's no more light that can be added to. So this blinking firefly will try to, not blink so much because it's embarrassed. But after being in New Vrindavan I came in 1973 and I left in 1993. And one of the farewell statements that I received from the community leader, after being here 20 years, he said, "Candramauli, you're a city devotee." Yeah, they told me that. Now you tell me, 20 years later. In other words, I didn't really do so good here. But because of my association with such great personalities, such as Varsana Maharaj and Radha Swami, who were so deep in the mood of serving Sri Sri Radha Vrindaban Natha, Radha Vrindaban Chandra, Radha Madhava, and Prabhupada's mood and mission in developing New Vrindavan, I somehow or other was able to hang on by their inspiration only. And I think what both of them said, especially Radha Maharaj's emphasis, is what really is the essence of the life that we lived here. It was the deities. It really was the deities. And just to reiterate and mention, we didn't have anything, and that was an understatement. For years at a time, we didn't have any electronic devices, no news from the outside world, no money, nothing that was ordinary for life in the world. All we had was each other and that inspiration to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission by establishing New Vrindavan. And that was the mood that was constantly given to us by the community leader Kirtananda Swami, as he inspired us so much in that mood of surrender and sacrifice in order to bring New Vrindavan to a place where Srila Prabhupada would be very, very happy and proud. And of course, we understand from Srila Prabhupada's teachings, his books, and many of his conversations, this is a dream that Prabhupada wanted not only for this place, but for the whole world. Prabhupada talked a lot about the importance of living like Krishna lived, living simply, depending on Krishna for whatever we needed, and serving Krishna, knowing that Krishna would provide everything we needed simply by that mood of service. And that was the inspiration, and that was there. We never felt like we were losing anything by surrendering to this difficult and somewhat austere and somewhat simplified lifestyle that we weren't accustomed to. But the inspiration came to satisfy Srila Prabhupada. And that was the bonding that we all have, that we want to please Srila Prabhupada and make this a place. And we were always hoping and praying that Srila Prabhupada would someday come here and actually stay here and live here. And that was the mood that was often glorified when we were building Srila Prabhupada's palace. The idea of building that palace, as Varsana Maharaj mentions, when we began the digging of the foundation for the Govindaji temple up in Bahulaban, we had built 15-foot deep hole with about, I think it was 8 foot wide on each side, 15 foot deep, and we had established an Antashesh. But at one point, and then as that process was developing, the idea came very strongly: how can we serve the Lord without first honoring and serving the spiritual master in our mission in developing New Vrindavan? So then the emphasis switched into an idea of building a house for Prabhupada, something that he would be happy to be in. But as the idea developed, as it became more and more, we thought, why a house? He is the most important person in the world. He is representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a house is just something insignificant. Let's build him a palace. And the devotees that lived here during that time, they had sacrificed everything in that mood of, let's build Srila Prabhupada a wonderful place where he would come and be happy to be there. And so, although we were here worshipping Radha Vrindaban Natha, during that time the emphasis was, let's build something wonderful for Srila Prabhupada. And as Radhanath Maharaj said, although that desire was so strong, still that emphasis of wanting to serve Sri Sri Radha Vrindaban Natha at the same time was kind of encompassing our life. Let's build this wonderful palace for Srila Prabhupada, and at the same time let's glorify Sri Sri Radha Vrindaban Natha. And they were our life. I mean, of course, we had each other, but we had each other because they were in the center of our life. Otherwise, as Maharaj said, there was always reasons for, Srila Prabhupada always used to say, wherever there's two people, there's two opinions. And that's the way life is, especially in this age we live in. But somehow or other that dissipated, and it sometimes became nothing when everything was centered around the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Sri Radha Vrindaban Natha. And at one point, I was asked to cook. And as Radhanath Maharaj describes his own experience, he had to milk the cows, and he had to worship the deities, take care of the deities. He was a pujari. He was also doing the cooking. He didn't mention one other thing. We had a goat, and he was milking the goat. And milking cows is a lot easier. The from what I understand, this is theoretical from my part, but her name was Kuja, and usually once she gave her milk, she turned around and tried to drink it. So always you have to wrestle to get away from her. So I mean, what Radha Swami has sacrificed in order to make this place actually a foundation for everything else that built upon that is amazing. And at one point, I was in the old Vrindaban farm. I mean, actually, in Bahulaban, and the temple commander Param Brahma, he came up to me. He said, Radhanath, of course he was Radhanath Brahmacharya. He said, he needs help. Why don't you go up there and give him a little assistance? You could be the cook. I said, cook? All I know about food is I eat it. I don't think about cooking. He said, don't worry, you'll learn when you get up there. On the job training, so. And then I entered into the kitchen, and it was a kitchen, they called it a kitchen. It was more like an underground escape route. But yeah, the nickname was, we had a nickname for the kitchen because there was no window. There was one window that was constantly covered with plastic, and some light would come in there once in a while if the sun was out otherwise. And the nickname was the dungeon. So I got to reside in such places. And then I had to learn to cook, and it was very difficult because Radhanath Maharaj at the time would try to teach me how to cook, and I couldn't learn anything. And he could tell you about all of the times when he would just pretty much give up and try to teach me how to cook. I didn't know anything. But one time he told me, he actually gave me a wonderful glorification one time. It was, I think, and things were going wrong all the time. In the kitchen, and just because I didn't know what I was doing. And he said, Candramauli, everything that goes wrong here is your fault. I thought, wow, I got such glorification. I didn't know I had such influence. But I think it was just some, kind of just inspired me to try harder. Anyway, life here was, besides all of the things that we learned as we were going along, it was wonderful to be here and just to have the opportunity, because we always felt deep in our heart, and this was emphasized so much, that we were doing such wonderful service for Srila Prabhupada by trying to build this new Vrindavan community. And the devotees gave their lives, literally. Devotees sacrificed everything to build Srila Prabhupada's palace. And to live here and to go to the palace every day after breakfast and then to come back. And again, there was ghee wicks to be made, there was silver and brass to be polished. All of that needed to be done when the devotees came back. Nobody complained. Everybody was willing to do whatever services was needed. And that's what kept us together. The mood of service and cooperation. But I didn't fit in so good for some reason. Yeah, and then of course, I liked the idea of austerity. I thought it was really kind of, interesting to be as austere as you could. So I had the job of cooking. And of course everything was done with wood. And Srila Prabhupada also made statements in reference that wood, you get quality when you cook with wood, as opposed to what of the other, energies we use, gas and electricity. So that was nice. I was learning. And then I had to do the breakfast offering for the deities. And we were getting supplies from Columbus Food Bank that would sometimes come here, and they would bring oats. So, and I think, if I'm correct, I remember Srila Prabhupada liked the idea of having the oats for the devotees in the morning because, it's a very good energetic food. And so my service was to toast the oats and then, offer it, and then offer it to the devotees. So it was just dry oats toasted. There wasn't much excitement for breakfast. And then the devotees would get hot milk and oats. So then, with the food bank coming in, we got some peanuts. Popular. And I was thinking, brahmachari life and peanuts? That's too much protein. I mean, I'm serious. This sounds hilarious now, but I was really serious. I mean, this is what Radha Swami had to deal with. my hard-headed austerities, anyway. So I thought, okay, they got some peanuts, we should make it a little nicer. So I used to count the amount of brahmacharis we had and then multiply it by 8. And then you get 8 peanuts per brahmachari. Because anything after that, you never know. You might be having wedding bells, So I didn't want to, we needed the brahmachari. So, all right. So, but then again, it wasn't a very good way to calculate things because when the first ones would get up there, they would pick out the peanuts. So we thought, we'll make it a little easier. So then I was told I have to increase to 13. So that was a little better. And that kind of pacified some of the complaints. So this is what it was like. These were some of the things that we face day to day in order to somehow or other provide services for the devotees. But life here was really, really, really nice. It was really nice. It was simple. There was no ritvik. There was no controversy. There was no whatever we have now as the society grows. But we were free from all that. All we had was each other and the service of Radha Vrindaban Natha and the mood of Srila Prabhupada's mission. And that's what kept us motivated. And it was nice. It was wonderful. I remember, if I can just, maybe Maharaj can correct me on this one. I remember we went down one time and we did a festival. No, actually the festival was here. Devotees had came up here. And I remember Radhanath Maharaj was giving a talk. And at one point, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he said, I was here for 2 years. The Maharaj never left this place. For more than 2 years he stayed here. And Kirtananda drew a line someplace right out in the area here, said, you don't cross that line. So he was staying. Kirtananda Swami got the idea from Janani Vas's instructions that he received from Srila Prabhupada. And you give your life to Radha Madhava and you stay here and you devote your life to that. So that was an inspiration. But that same inspiration was placed upon Maharaj. So one time he was giving a talk here, he said, in 2.5 years, I saw 4 women. Tulsi, Radharani, Subhadra, and cow. Of course, I'm also telling my own experience because every once in a while I would have the opportunity to leave here and go to the other farm. for the Sunday feast because, I wasn't able to continue without a little bit of a, what we say, reprieve, a little break in the mood. But still, it was so wonderful being here because, everything centered around the deities. And we understood if you made the Lord happy, then everything else will automatically follow. So life here was wonderful. And of course, now being back here after for me, it's been about 30 years since I've been back here. Of course, we came once in a while for a one-day festival. But the mood here is so nice. Srila Prabhupada talks a lot about, and not only a lot, but really quite often about the importance of living quite simply, depending on nature, depending on, living according to the way Krishna lived. Agriculture. We call it cow protection, but actually it's cow care. Caring for cows, actually, as family members. That is actually the culture of the Vedic culture. The cow was not considered to be just a commodity that the family had in order to get something. They made the cow a part of the family, and the cow also felt part of the family. Recently I was giving a lecture talking about cows and the importance of cows to the extent of my understanding. And one person in the audience, this was just recently, he said, Maharaj, cows are so much in tune with human beings that in India and many places where cow was part of the family, if a family member got sick, the cow would know it, and the cow would go and eat a particular herb that was meant to cure that particular disease for that person, and then they would take that milk and give it to that person. That's how beautiful the cow is. Cow is just so much God's gift to human nature, to humankind. So that is our wealth: cows, land, and of course New Vrindaban is the epitome of that for the last 50 years. Srila Prabhupada mentions Brahminical culture, cow protection, and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead makes the complete, wholesome, Krishna-conscious human culture. So all of that is already a foundation here. So continue to build this community according to Srila Prabhupada's desire, and Srila Prabhupada will continue to bestow his mercy in so many wonderful ways. So I'm so grateful to be here. Actually, for me, this is a revival, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj ki.